Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Society. My name is Roger Birchhausen and I'm the interim minister here. Whether you're in your home in Madison or somewhere else around the globe, it is a gift to gather together in this online space. It's good to look for the occasional blessing in this very difficult time, and one of them is that more people are joining us on Sundays from afar. For today's service, Reverend Kelly Crocker and I are joined by Linda Warren, Rachel Avery, Drew Collins, Stephen Gregorius, and Daniel Carnes. As we create space together for community, we would like to invite you to join us after the service in our virtual coffee hour. This is a wonderful way to deepen our conversations with one another and strengthen our connections. In a moment, we will light our chalice here, and I hope you will find something to light where you are, whether it's a family chalice or a candle or an online flame or on your phone. May the fires of our chalice flames burn brightly throughout our wider community. I invite you now to join in a time of centering silence, a time for a few deep breaths to come fully into this time and this space together.
Here we have come into this time and space, hoping, trusting for so many things, for connection, for communion, for inspiration, for information, for healing, for wholeness, for words, for music, for celebration and consolation. Here we have come into this space bringing all of who we are. Let us be a house of welcome, whatever may come. Let us be willing, however we are changed. And I invite you now to join in our words of chalice lighting that will appear on your screen. We light this chalice, symbol of our purpose to bring more love and justice into the world. We light this chalice, knowing our congregation is dispersed across communities, not bound by walls, but connected through the web of life. And now, please join together in singing our in-gathering hymn, Morning Has Come.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Roger, have you ever had a time in your life when everything changed? When all the things that you knew about the world or about yourself seemed suddenly to be different?
Oh, absolutely. How about you?
Oh, yes, I have. And our story today is about exactly that. It begins on a hot summer day when a cold, tasty treat began melting away. It was so very hot and it happened so quick. What once was a popsicle was now a stained stick. Deep in a puddle that was getting quite sticky, this sad little stick cried and felt rather icky.
I should not have gone out when it was so hot. I was sweet and amazing, but now I am not. What can I do? This has all gone so wrong. I'm just a plain stick. Oh, where do I belong?
Then Stick heard a voice from way up in a tree. Hello down there, you can come hang with me. I couldn't help hearing what you have been through. My name is Twig, and I'm made of wood too. Please do not cry, just listen to me. Before being a popsicle, you were part of a tree. There's so much more in this world for you to explore. You will get through this and be more than before.
Twig quickly jumped down from the very tall tree and said, Stick, there is something I'd like you to see. Sometimes things happen and the reasons aren't clear, but give it some time and the answers appear. She knew her friend Pencil could draw something grand. Hopefully, he could help Stick understand.
I was once a stick too, and nothing much more, but then one special day, I got a gray core. I didn't know how to draw, so I swirled a nice line, and then I discovered I'd made a design.
Can't you see? I'm just a stained stick. My only talent was melting too quick. I cannot draw or do a fun trick. I'll always be just an icky, sticky stick.
Twig knew she needed to show Stick even more, something amazing that he could not ignore. So they went to see Brush, who was once lost too, but now he could paint with red, yellow, and blue.
Brush was a plain stick and nothing much more, but one special day he got bristles galore. Look at him now, look at all he can do. He easily made that fun splatter crew.
It's true what Twig said. I was once just like you. Please don't be afraid to try something new. I know you are scared. I can tell by your face. But it might take some time to find your right place.
Can't you see I'm just a stained stick? My only talent was melting too quick. I cannot paint or do a fun trick. I'll always just be an icky, sticky stick.
Listen to me. You are pretty great. Don't say I can't. Say I can and celebrate. I know you have not been a plain stick before. You have the chance now to become so much more.
Twig saw that Stick was still very upset, so she thought they should go back to where they first met. Back at the sweet puddle of sugary goo, Twig thought Stick might find a good clue.
Then Twig looked up. It's been there all along. That little stick house could be where you belong. Twig was excited. She ran up the tree and shouted to Stick, hurry up, follow me.
Stick couldn't believe Twig had climbed up so high. I've never climbed a tree and I'm too scared to try.
Just then a bluebird flew down to the ground and lifted Stick up without making a sound. The bird placed him gently in the last open space. Finally, Stick found his new happy place.
This is where I belong. I can make art in a tree. It was quite a journey, but I'm glad to be me.
Stick never forgot that one hot summer day and was glad that his popsicle melted away. He made some true friends and beautiful tree art.
And learned it's never too late to have a fresh start. And I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit in your homes and join in singing hymn number 83, Winds Be Still.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come, peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. Birds fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far, and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shining, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony.
The reading today comes from the book Mostly Life is Like This by Roger Butts. Sometimes life is like this. A minister friend, Meg, was invited to moderate a forum between two groups that, truth be told, would each rather that the other not exist. One side spoke and shouted. The other side spoke and shouted. Words passed like light, invasive and encompassing, but little understood. Exhausted, the combatants turned to Meg. "Have you anything to add?" Meg rose. "If you are in this camp, God loves you. If you are in that camp, God loves you." Then she sat down. Grace abounds. Sometimes life is like this. I once went to a meeting with my district executive in Delaware. Certain of her position, I joked with her. "Oh yes, I'm a Unitarian Universalist Christian, but my Christology is appropriately low." "What is wrong with a high Christology?" she demanded. 2 weeks later, I learned that she left our place for a Catholic place. Assuming I knew her position, I forgot to invite her into conversation. Certainty abounds. But mostly life is like this. On a Thursday afternoon, I said to one I value and trust, "Should we go to the water for the day, spend some time on the bay?" "Yes, I think so." We drove. She sang songs of her childhood. We watched a sunset and heard a dog bark. The woman at the inn gave us directions to a cafe where we were served wine and laughter. And life abounds.
Thank you, Rachel and Linda, for bringing such beauty to our service this morning. You may have noticed the slide that appeared on your screen during our moment of silence. It held this quote from the dancer and choreographer Agnes DeMille. "Living is a form of not being sure, not knowing what next or how. The moment you know how, you begin to die a little. The artist never entirely knows. We guess. We may be wrong, but we take leap after leap in the dark." This quote might be difficult for us to hear, because as human beings, we share a desire for certainty. We scramble for solid ground. We fight hard to hold on to what is known, what is sure. We long for solidity and security. Humans can think about the future, and we want to plan what that future will be. We fear uncertainty, and we live with anxiety and dread over what may come. The field of psychology has shown that people prefer certainty over uncertainty, that uncertainty short circuits our system. We prefer our leaders to be decisive. We are told to take control of our lives. Time and again, we choose the known over the unknown. Think of that famous saying, "Better the devil you know than the one you don't." We would rather deal with someone we know, no matter how unscrupulous they may be, than deal with someone who is unknown to us. We seem to have a built-in aversion to uncertainty. And we like to be certain, don't we? At a memorial a few weeks ago, the nephew of the deceased said, "There's one thing I can say about my aunt. She may have been seldom right, but she was always certain." We all know someone like that, don't we? And maybe that someone is us. It's one of the reasons why we say there are topics we never talk about, those taboo subjects you never bring up with family. I can't talk politics or religion with my family. I've heard many say time and time again, because it never ends well. Is it because we are so convinced of our position that we cannot allow ourselves to relax into uncertainty, to be open to a differing view without feeling that it in some way jeopardizes our own? We are like the voices in our reading. One side spoke and shouted, the other side spoke and shouted, words passed like light, invasive and encompassing, but little understood. Yet in truth, we know that no matter how certain we would like to believe we are, that all of human life is uncertain. Whether we are conscious of it or not, the ground beneath our feet is always shifting. Nothing lasts, including us. The Buddhist nun Pema Chodron writes, "Instead of trying to control the uncontrollable by looking for security and predictability, always hoping to be comfortable and safe, we need to learn how to relax in the midst of chaos." We've had plenty of time these past 6 months to get accustomed to chaos and more uncertainty than perhaps we think we can handle. A pandemic, a presidential election that contains within it a volatile mix of hope and fear, promise and peril. All this mixed with the deep inequalities of our country being brought into such clarity. The disparities of wealth, of resources, of human dignity and respect clear in front of us. Our ways of being with others, our ways of working, our patterns of living are all different. The familiar ways no longer work. We've had to get comfortable with new ways of being, figure out new ways to do routine things. We've had to get comfortable with uncertainty. This past week, Lynn Unger, who serves as Minister of Lifespan Learning at the Church of the Larger Fellowship, wrote a new poem called These Days. She writes, "Anyone who tells you not to be afraid should have their head examined. Cities are burning, hillsides are burning, and the dumpster fire of our common life is out of control. I wish I could tell you when it was going to get better. I wish I could promise that better was anywhere down this road. I miss dancing, bodies in something between conversation and flight. I miss singing, the way we trusted the air that moved between us. I miss the casual assumption that everything would be all right in the morning. These days I am trying to be buoyed by the smallest things, a ripe tomato, a smattering of rain. These days I am trying to remember that songs of lamentation are still songs." One of the things that has been lifting me up in these days are small, intimate weddings, gatherings of people closest to a couple, less than 10, of course, children, parents, and friends, a glimmer of hope, a reminder of the power of love. I've been fortunate enough to officiate at hundreds of weddings, and in those vows, people promise to love one another in sickness and in health, for better, for worse, in all the ways that love may find us. In these vows, we are admitting the truth of uncertainty. Right there with this person we are committing our lives to, telling them that we can be certain of how we will be in this relationship, that we will do the best that we can, and that everything else, all the other ways, these are not in our power. We make these promises to one another despite our fears, our wonderings for the future, despite the uncertainty. Perhaps it is because the possibilities before us for this life together give us a belief in what the Catholic nun and scholar Joan Chittister calls the benevolence of the unknown. When we see the unknown as friendly and welcoming, she tells us, instead of as hostile and dangerous, we can melt into the stream of life, more fully human ourselves. Now, speaking with one of our members this week gave me a small insight into what could happen if we can allow ourselves to see the unknown as benevolent. She works for a large corporation here in town, a company that was initially very wary of allowing remote working for employees, was worried about productivity and an employee's ability to stay focused if they were home with family members, with children. What they have learned is that they are saving quite a bit of money with remote working, that productivity is the same, if not better, and that there are added benefits they never could have imagined. One of these is in the area of diversity and inclusion in the workforce. Before the pandemic, if you wanted to work for this company, you would move here to Madison. You would get accustomed to the new cultures of work of this town. Try to find a place where you belong. This has been extremely difficult for many people of color who have read the reports and studies that show Wisconsin as one of the worst places in our country, especially for Black people to call home. Black residents earn 42.3% of the average white income, and Wisconsin incarcerates Black people at a rate of 12-1 compared to white people, which is more than double the national average of 5-1. So there is an understandable reluctance to move here to Wisconsin. Now, this company's HR department is headed in a new and unforeseen direction. With remote working, they can hire people around the country, discovering and developing talent among employees who can remain in their own communities, near their family, who can bring their immense talents here in exciting ways, creating a more diverse workforce that wouldn't have been imagined even a year ago. The unknown can be benevolent, can be beneficial if we can let go of our fear and apprehension, if we can allow ourselves to melt into the stream of life. When I was a child, we had a pool in our backyard, and my dad loved to swim. He looked like a fish when he was gliding through that water. I remember sitting on the edge of the deck watching him play with my sister, who already knew how to swim, and waiting for him to come and get me and carry me through that water. One day, when my father just wanted to swim alone, my sister decided that if she pushed me into the water, he would need to let her come in too. Luckily, as my body was descending like a stone to the bottom, my father turned at just the right moment, saw me sinking, and was able to grab me and get me out of there in time. My family says this was the moment I suddenly learned how to swim. After that, our family legend says I had no more fear of the water. I became a fish and would be the first one in and the last one out every day of the summer. I have no idea where truth lies in those memories, but I always knew that if I had children, they would learn how to swim. Our older son did all the things in the right order. Classes at the pool with his dad when he was tiny, moving up the ranks until the instructor said that he'd graduated. He was a certified swimmer. Our younger one travels his own path. This has always been true. One day when we were at the pool and were carefully using the steps to get in, we turned to call for him, to see him just take off and leap into the deep end. This child could not swim. When I reached him and pulled out of the water, I said something like, "Honey, what were you doing? You can't swim." And he turned to me and said, "But Mom, it's easier to learn in the deep." It's easier to learn in the deep. We had a long talk with him that night, and many times again about the danger of what he had done. And I do not recommend my sister's or my child's form of swim instruction to anyone. Yet I realized that in order to jump into that water, he'd already done the hard work. He convinced himself he could do it. He let go of any fear that might be holding him back. The fear of the unknown was gone, and he was ready. Denise Levertov writes in her poem, The Avowal, "As swimmers dare to lie face to the sky, and water bears them. As hawks rest upon air, and air sustains them. So would I learn to attain free fall and float into Creator Spirit's deep embrace, knowing no effort earns that all-surrounding grace." It's easier to learn in the deep. These are uncertain times, and we are in the deep. Can we become swimmers who dare to lie face to the sky, being sustained by water and air and grace? Can we remember that while we are not in control of the outcome, we are part of something larger than ourselves? And while we can only control our own actions, when we unite our efforts toward the common good, we have a greater impact. And right now, we must have a greater impact, And we cannot do that if we are certain, because hanging on to that certainty will wear us out. Joanna Macy, the Buddhist teacher and environmental activist, says it this way: when you make peace with uncertainty, you find a kind of liberation. You are freed from bracing yourself against every piece of bad news and from constantly having to work up a sense of hopefulness before you can act, which can be exhausting. I know many of you are exhausted. I know that you have trouble sleeping. I know the fear of the unknown is a living presence taking up a great deal of space in your life and in your head. And I would like to offer you 2 questions to try and help you move into a different space when the uncertainty becomes too much. What do I know how to do? And what does my community need? These 2 questions, they will not make the uncertainty go away, but they'll give you something to work with. They can give you direction and remind you of the strength and the courage that you possess. You are already in the deep. We are all here in this deep end together. And if we can let go of the fear and believe in ourselves and each other, we can meet this challenge. If we drop our certainty, admit that we don't have all the answers, that we have some of them, and others have some as well, maybe we can embrace one another and the unknown as partners in this life. In moments of uncertainty, anxiety, and dread, ask yourself, what do you know how to do? And what does your community need? How can you spread hope, bring joy, help our community heal? Living is a form of not being sure, not knowing what next or how. We guess, we may be wrong, but together we continue to leap again and again into the dark.
As Reverend Kelly shared those words of wisdom, I was thinking about this congregation and how it has been here in this community through times when the uncertainty was so deep and palpable, like now, during wars and recessions and pandemics. And here in those times when it's easier to feel like things are more certain, even though underneath they really aren't. And the reason why this congregation has been here for all of these years, through the good times, the hard times, the challenging times, is all of you who make up the congregation, who give to this congregation your dreams, your vision, your work, your financial support, your presence. All of these things are what keeps this congregation here during the good and the bad times. I invite you into this time of giving freely and generously to this offering which sustains and strengthens this community, a community of memory, hope, faith, and love. For now, we are all keepers of this community. We are the dream of justice. We are the vision of what the world could be. We are a beloved community. You'll see on your screen that you can go donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life that we create together.
We gather each week people with sorrows and celebrations etched into our hearts. We share these burdens so that the weight of grief and the whisperings and shoutings of joy can be shared alike. This week we light a candle of loss and gratitude for two furry friends, Coco, the cat of Nancy Deer, and Percy, the cat of Karen Rose Gredler, who both passed away this week. We know how much these friends mean to us, and we send our love to both Karen Rose and to Nancy. And we light a candle for Joan Trunk, my aunt, who passed away on Friday morning. My family, and especially my father, is missing her fierce determination, her deep, rumbling laugh, and her caring heart. As we hold these in our hearts, along with the unnamed joys and sorrows living within each of us, may we join together in a moment of silence. Blessed be, and amen. And I invite you now into our closing hymn, I Wish I Knew How.
Feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart, remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me, then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free. And then I'd sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free.
As we extinguish our chalice, may we remember that no matter how discouraged or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In the coming days, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected, each day act, so you and we may be a little more whole. Blessed be, and go in peace.